השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו
David Baumann was my grandfather and Pam's grandfather and Marianne's grandfather's first cousin. And when I found out about them and I found out about Stolpersteine, I'll talk a little bit about that, I knew we had to come to Amsterdam to lay these. I'd like to welcome all members of my family and special people. I live in Seattle, Washington, and the Baumann family lived here in Amsterdam. So even though we did not meet them or know them, they are very special to us. I'd like to thank the members of my family. That's like everybody here, my daughters, my daughter-in-law, my granddaughter, my niece, her husband, my cousin, and my husband.
Your sister.
My sister. And also Rabbi Tenbrink, who has come here to give us some, to speak also at the end. And to the municipal workers, thank you so much for doing this wonderful work. Also, we are lucky to have a videographer, a Meryl Owaneba, I might know that's how you say it, who's filming the ceremony for those who was unable to attend, and also to my cousin Flash Rosenberg in New York City, who will be doing the post-production. So we really appreciate that. It's hard for us to be in a place where this family lived and worked and felt so welcome by their neighbors and friends. But unfortunately, they were caught when the Nazi Germany invaded Amsterdam, and that they were murdered by the Nazis, and that's what we're talking about. So the Stolpersteins, this is a remembrance to them, and you can see the municipal workers put them right there, right here in front of the house. This is the house where they lived. The reason there's two groups is that the first three are for David, my grandfather's cousin, his wife Marta, and their young son Lothar. And then this is Marta's parents. She actually lived on Lekstraat, which they will move when they can put it back in. But today we are holding our heads high in honor of these family members. This will be their, in effect, their final resting place. And we realize that even though we learn from the past, we must pay respects to our family members who did not survive. Okay, so I would like everyone to, seeing as we have so many, to briefly introduce themselves. I said my name is Sandra Ginsberg Barnes. I'm from Seattle, Washington, and David Baumann was my grandfather, Erwin Baumann's first cousin. I've been putting this together for 9 years. When I first found out about it, I told my cousin, Marianne, we're coming to Amsterdam. I don't think she believed me, but we did. I would also like to mention here, they encourage you to find other family members, and I found Inga Marcus in Sydney, Australia, who was Marta's first cousin, and also another cousin, Peter Wyant from Regina, Saskatchewan, and he wanted to come. He's helping pay for it, and so he sent me a picture of himself. So
Do we have a picture of the woman in Australia?
No.
Also, so why don't we really quick go around and people can say who they are, right?
I'm Teresa Dunn, daughter of Pamela, niece of Sandy.
And then I'm Mark Bellamy. I'm Teresa's husband. We're from Indianapolis.
Yes.
Okay. Meredith?
We have Scout here.
She's 3 months old.
The youngest.
And I'm Meredith Davis. I'm a friend of the family, and this is my boyfriend Eric Morrow.
My name is Susanna. I am daughter of Sandy and Dennis Barnes, and this is my wife Megan James.
And Scout is?
And Scout is our daughter. She's napping. 4 months old tomorrow. And waking up.
I am Ted, and I live here.
Thank you.
Menno ten Brink, rabbi of the Liberal Jewish congregation here, 200
Thank you so much.
meters away
Thank you.
in Amsterdam, also in this area of Amsterdam, large Jewish community.
I'm Pamela Dunn, and I am the youngest sister of our family, so Sandy is my sister.
Hi, I'm Naomi Barnes. I'm also the youngest and daughter of Sandy. Youngest children.
Dennis Barnes, husband of Sandy Barnes.
I'm Ann Huitzing. I work for the Stichting Stolpersteine, the Stolpersteine Foundation, as a volunteer.
I'm Marianne Flagg. I'm from Connecticut, Sandy's first cousin. David was my grandfather's first cousin, and it's an experience not to be forgotten.
I wanted to mention, thank you very much for the introduction, the honorees. And so Marianne will be sent. Some of these are of various quality, but I'm happy to have them. The first, of course, is David Baumann, who is my grandfather's first cousin, but unfortunately he's the one I don't have a picture of. But he was, his dates are 1892 to 1943. He was born to Leopold Baumann and Caroline Bensberger in Schmieheim, Germany, which is in Baden, the province closest to France.
So you came here as a refugee. You came here because you escaped from the death.
And I understand now that there are a lot of Jewish families here, and there are some connections to the Frank family, not a little weak, but they are there. And they thought they would be safe here from the regime. Here's David, who I first spoke of, Marta Weissbaumann, was, her dates were 1901 to 1944. She was the wife of David, mother of Lothar. She immigrated to Amsterdam with the rest of her family. And I have some family pictures showing both her and Lothar and the grandparents in one of them. I think David must be taking the picture. And that other picture is from the Jews Monument website. I don't know who the motorcycle belonged to. The third person I wanted to talk to is sort of the one that's close to my heart is Lothar Baumann, who was born in 1926, died in 1942. He was the teenage son. And when he came to Amsterdam, November 35, he had attended the school of German Jewish children who the main goal was to teach them Dutch. Now, I ran into an author actually in Seattle who had an article in the newspaper about, she was also a German Jew, went to Amsterdam, Amsterdam, and it turns out, and she wrote wrote a book about how she was saved by certain Nazi people who did not count her as Jewish. And then, of course, when I wrote to her, I knew there was hundreds of thousands, many thousands of German Jews who were immigrants. And I asked her if she knew Lothar Baumann. She did. She did know her. So she gave me, we went to her apartment, she gave me this picture. And this was a family that was very close to the Frank family. Otto Frank was her best man in her wedding. Here's Lorraine right here. And here is Lothar right here. And she told me a story. She told me a little story. It's just a little story, but it just kind of, yeah. So, and also I blew up. So they were learning to speak Dutch in this workbook. And she knew that she had done just as much work as Lothar had. She was all caught up. And when time came to be promoted to the next grade, Lothar was promoted, but Lorraine was not. And she was pretty mad about that. And her parents wouldn't support her, so she went to the principal. And he agreed, and she got promoted. So it's just a little Lothar story. But to me, Lothar was just a child. He's the one that kind of touches me the most. He was only 16 years old. One can only imagine the anguish of the parents not knowing where he went and him never coming back. In reality, he was likely worked to death in Auschwitz, about 2 or 3 months after he went to Auschwitz. Oh, wait a minute. No, I don't have that yet. Now, also a footnote, as I like to say, I learn about this when I'm not looking for it. And there was taking a class, Anne Frank's diary, there was a footnote in there. And it said that the very first group that was sent off was done by letter, and there was a number of teenagers that were associated with that. And it said that the Frank family got one for Margot, who was Anne's older sister, on the 4th of July, 1942. And that's what that frightened them, and that's caused them to move into the secret annex before they were really ready, before it was really done. But I looked at that date and my heart just sunk. I went home and looked at the dates I had. Sure enough, Lothar hit at Westerbork, which is the transit camp, where you were there for a while, on the 10th of July, 1942. What do you think? He got the same letter as Margot Frank. So, now the other people that are over here is Marta's parents, grandparents, Adolf. Yeah, that's Adolf. And they actually didn't live here. They lived in Lekstraat, some streets away. And when Lekstraat is ready, then they will move these. It'd be great if someone could come here to witness it, but I don't know. I think we all got
We'll make we'll make photos for you.
Yeah. And so, but I don't know too much about David. I hope to know more about them. So now I would like Teresa, my niece. We're gonna read off their names and their dates
And let us speak of the date of what happened to the members of this family under the Nazis' program of repression and death. For the residents of Slostraat 6 to Amsterdam, Lothar Baumann, 24th of April 1926, he was born in Frankfurt am Main. The 10th of July 1942, he arrived at Westerbork Transit Camp, and on August 26, 1942, he died in Auschwitz. David Baumann, 28th of July 1892, was born in Schmieheim, Baden. The 10th of July 1943, he arrived in Westerbork Transit Camp. The 13th of July 1943, he departed Westerbork Transit Camp. And on the 16th of July 1943, he died in Sobibor. Martha Baumann Weiss, born on 16th of July 1901 in Frankfurt am Main. 17th of November 1943, she arrived in Westerbork Transit Camp. On the 25th of January 1944, she departed Westerbork Transit Camp. And on the 28th of January 1944, she died in Auschwitz. For the residents of Legstraat 172, Amsterdam, Adolf Weiss was born in Langenlonsheim, Germany on the 23rd of December 1871. The 21st of June 1943, he arrived in Westerbork. The 6th of July 1943, he departed Westerbork. And the 9th of July 1943, he died in Sobibor. Isabella Weiss Blumenthal, the 20th of June 1943, she arrived in Westerbork. The 6th of July 1943, she departed Westerbork. And the 9th of July 1943, she died in Sobibor.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay, I think now we have is as part of this preparation process, I got in touch. I was able to locate some relatives of Marta, and including her first cousin, and also her first cousin Inga Marcus from Sydney, Australia, and another cousin, Peter Wyant, from Regina, Saskatchewan. They were unable to come today, but they are participating, and I asked them each to prepare a statement to read. So first, Marianne is going to read from Inga Marcus.
Remembrance from Inga Marcus, Sydney, Australia. On behalf of my extended family, I would like first of all to thank Sandy Barnes for organizing the installation of the ceremony today, and Rabbi Menno Tenbrick for his kind assistance. I would have liked to have been there in person for this installation and ceremony of remembrance, but I cannot be, regrettably. I would like to say a few words in remembrance of my paternal grandparents, Adolf and Bella Weiss. One of my father's elder sisters, Marta Weiss, and her husband, David Baumann, and their son, Lothar. I was born in 1935 in Amsterdam. As things became more intolerable in Germany, my parents, Kurt and Helen Weiss, were persuaded by my grandfather to move to Amsterdam from Frankfurt am Main, and they did so in late 1933. My grandfather was very prescient about the way things were likely going in Europe under Hitler, so he was able to persuade my parents to emigrate from Europe when they were still able. We emigrated to Australia in late summer 1937 and have lived and raised a family here ever since. I was only 2 years old when we emigrated, so I don't really remember my grandparents or my Aunt Marta and her family very well, but they are ever close to my heart nonetheless. I am especially grateful to my grandfather Adolf because it was really he who arranged for our emigration. Our escape from Amsterdam to Australia was not very easy, but likely typical for the times. The Dutch government at the time was friendly to Jews fleeing Germany and issued them the passports or visas to negate their having been deemed stateless by the Reich. My parents often related how they lowered me over the steep little balcony of their house in Amsterdam in the middle of the night and, traveling by foot and on French trains, somehow got to Marseille, where through some money being passed to the right hands, we were able to board a ship for passage to Australia. My dear grandparents, particularly my grandfather, did all the arrangements to get us to Marseille, where our household possessions, money, and clothing were waiting. My grandfather obviously had friends or business acquaintances who helped with all this. We sailed first to New Caledonia and then to Melbourne via Sydney, where, after disembarking, my family was boarded at the Jewish Help in Need Society boarding house, which still stands in Melbourne, and was otherwise taken care of by the Australian Jewish Welfare Society, today Jewish Care, Inc. We had to sell many of our household goods to survive until they found my father a job in Toowoomba, Queensland, a town some 115 kilometers from Brisbane. There was a good German population in the town, so there was some anti-Semitism. This was now 1938. My father managed a transfer to the same company in Brisbane, where we received assistance from the Margaret Street Synagogue. He was a commercial artist and ticket writer, the same sort of work he had done in Germany before losing his job. My family has other Stolpersteines installed in Amsterdam. My maternal grandparents, Sigmund Gumpertz, 1853 to 1943, and his wife, Bertha Niesander, 1867 to 1943, had Stolperstein laid in 2009 at their residence in West Verklein, 1, before they were taken to Westerbork. Since they were quite elderly, they moved to the Netherlands and lived with Adolf and Bella Weiss until they were all deported. Again, thank you, Sandy, for making this happen. I wish I could have been there, and I'm very grateful for all your efforts.
All right, so Remembrance by Peter S. Wyatt, Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. Louder. On behalf of myself, my wife Carol, and all the other members of my extended family in Canada and elsewhere, I also want to thank Sandy Barnes for undertaking the initiative to have these Stolpersteine laid. She had eloquently described the journey that has brought her and her family to this place and time to honor and remember the lost members of her Baumann family. Like my cousin Ingrid, my wife Carol and I are also very sorry that we could not be present for the ceremony in person, but health circumstances have dictated otherwise. I would like to say a few words in respect to Marta's parents, Aldous and Isabel Wise. Aldous was born 23rd of December 1871 in Langenschem, Germany, a few kilometers southwest of Frankfurt in Maine. He was the eldest of 8 children, one of whom was adopted, of Abraham Wise, 1845 to 1924, and Franny Nee Alder, 1843 to 1912, who was married at Langenschem in 1870. Of these 8 children, Carl died in 1877 at age 1 month, and Arthur, born 1883, was killed in Cheny in Dormos, France, on Yom Kippur 1915, fighting for his country. He was a lance corporal. I have this whistle he was wearing when he was born, preserved by my grandfather in a small snakeskin box. It is my most treasured possession. Almost all of the other Wise siblings perished in Shoah. Ludwig Wise, born 1873, and his wife Hannah Nee Shoulder, born 1882. They have no children. Lena Wise, born 1874, she was unmarried. Tonya Wise, the adopted child, born 1876. Her husband August Max was born in 1921. They had 2 children. One survived, one died in 1938. And Morez Wise, born 1880, and his wife Frida Nee Rothschild, born 1880. They had 2 children who were both immigrated in the United States. Stolpersteine for Morez and Frida were laid in Langenschem in 2017. Of the 6 Wise siblings still alive in 1939, only my grandfather, Raymond Sigmund Wise, and my grandmother, Paula Nee Schroeder, survived the Shoar. They escaped in 1941 through Vichy and Lisbon and died peacefully in Canada and the United States, respectively. Both their children and father, Gunther Gordon, and his younger brother, Edgar, also survived. Adolf moved to Langersham to Frankfurt in Maine at some point prior to 1900, and he married Isabel Ruthmethel at Frankfurt in 1900. Isabella was one of the least of 3 children of Felix Ruthmethel circa 1852 to 1935 and Caroline Meyer in 1848 to 1918. She was born in Frankfurt on the 31st of December in 1880. Adolf was a cinema house owner in Frankfurt, operating at least 2 theaters there, and the last one being in Roxy. In 1933, the family moved to the Netherlands, eventually to live in Amsterdam, where he operated at least one movie theater, the Alhambra. They were living in Langstraat 171 or 172 and had been there as early as February 1941, when on the 20th of June 1943, Isabella was committed to Westbrook, her husband, as Adolf, going the next day. Jews in Amsterdam were rounded up to be deported, were also invariably first held in the Holland Theater, now the Netherlands National Holocaust Memorial Site, for a period of days before being sent to Westerbork. On the 6th of July, 1943, Adolf Wise Jude and Isabel Wise Ruther were transported to Sobibor in Poland. It was later determined by a Dutch war death tribunal, literally the War Cemetery Foundation at Gravenhenge, that they were both perished. Their date of death was set on the 9th of July, 1943. It was standard practice, however, to have dates of the death of people deported to the extermination camps set at 3 days after their date of deportation. This is the approximate average of traveling time to Poland, barring any specific information to the contrary. In 2013, Carol and I were able to visit 5 to 6 Operation Reich in Poland, including extermination camps in Poland, including Sobibor. It was a life-altering experience. Ulrich and Bella had 2 children, both born in Frankfurt. Marta Wise, born 16th of July 1901, of whom Sandy has spoken, along with Marta's husband, David Baumann, and son Lothar, and Keith Manfred Wise, born the 4th of April 1906, the father of Ingram Marcus Nee Wise, who was also provided the remarks of the Stolpersteine installation. Finally, I would like to thank Rabbi Ten Brick for his kind assistance in accommodating our families for this installation.
Grant to God that we lie down in peace, and raise up our guardian to life renewed. Spread over the shelter of your peace, guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shed and shield and shelter as beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, fame, and sorrow. Distance us from the wrongdoing. Baruch atah Adonai, O praise, Sukkot Shalom Aleinu, Ve'akol Am Yisrael V'ad Yerushalayim. Blessed are you, O Adonai, God of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. I'm an alto, but I've got a cold, so it sounds a little weird, but Rabbi, very nice. Good job. All right. The next section is called The Road to Amsterdam.
My great-grandfather, Morris Baumann, was one of 7 children, and they were born, as I said, in Baden, in Schmieheim. And the picture that you're looking at, you might, Mary, want to go around twice.
I will. I'm going fast.
Okay. He came to America kind of, as they say, late, which is in 1890. He came to America. He had learned the rubber trade in Germany, and then he came here and started a business with his brother-in-law, Julius Legra, brother of his wife, Claire Legra. This is a picture from about 1930 of his family. The one, Marianne Morris Baumann. And then their 3 adult children. My grandfather, Erwin Baumann, is on the very right. And also, if you see down at the below, there are some grandchildren. The one kind of peeking out in the middle is my mother, Pam's mother. She's born in 1924. And then the older girl is Ruth Baumann, Marianne's mother. And she's helping take care of her, Marilyn Rosenberg. And so, his family...
Flash's mother.
That's Flash's mother. As far as I know, they're not really concerned about what's going on in Germany. This is a little early anyway, before Hitler's come to power. But they had a pretty darn good life going in New Haven, and that's where they identified. Not from their German. They didn't have much contact with their German cousins. But there was some. The next picture, which Marianne's going to show up, is I think it was taken before that because they looked younger. This picture was, they had traveled back to Germany to visit relatives, and that picture has a photographer's mark for a Lahr, L-A-H-R, which was a small town near Schmieheim. So we know he went back at least once, and he probably did know of his nieces and nephews. He was the youngest of 7, so a lot of them were older than he was. So I struggled over this for a long time, almost wanting to ask my deceased mother, why didn't you know? Why didn't you know? How come you didn't tell me? And, you know, their parents were very assimilationist. As far as they're concerned, you're just like everybody else. They did not identify with their European heritage. And And I thought, well, you should probably know, but I don't think so, because how many of us really know our parents' first cousins? And especially if you had never met them, they had lived in another country, they spoke a different language, there was no communication with them. So I really don't think, I don't think that they knew at all. You know, even if afterwards she had used the search engine of that time, the American Red Cross, she didn't have names, and she wasn't very interested. So we didn't know. As far as I knew, there was no way for us to know this. So, and also her grandfather, Morris, he didn't really know, and he passed away in 1937. That was before a lot of the Holocaust even happened, and certainly the information was not coming out. So here's another picture of my mother. This is from 1940.
Oh, I just did that one. They already saw it.
All right, well, you just 1940, and she's wearing a very fancy dress. She's 16, and it's probably a confirmation dress. And confirmation was held during Shavuot, which was in May or June, in springtime of 1940. So there she is, probably in May and June of 1940. And at that very same time, Nazi Germany declared war and occupied the Netherlands. But she didn't know anything about that. And she certainly, 16-year-old Claire certainly did not have any idea of what danger her 14-year-old second cousin Lothar Baumann was in. But, so that's where we left it. But, in 9 years ago, 2013, this is how I came to learn about it. A third cousin, who you know, Sue Geiger, had written me, this is kind of my genealogy buddy, and said, hey, I found some ancestry family trees of the Baumann family. And it matches the name and the date and the birthplace. I think this is the family. Now, ancestry family trees are not that great. There's a lot of bad work, there's a lot of mistakes, but it's something. So I started working on it. And so I got to part of the Kehila Links, which is part of Jewish Gen, which is a big online Jewish genealogy site. And the Kehila Links, they're separated and it's geographical. So if you had a Jewish community that you wanted to know about, some people worked on these, and there was one for Schmieheim. So I started writing to Peter Dreyfus and talking to him. He asked me to write a little note about Morris Baumann. I did that, it's still there. And so then he told me about, and I know I'm saying it wrong, if you know what it's Orsipenbuchers. I don't know if that's how you say it. Okay, show the other thing. Okay, go slow on that one, because it's an interesting one. And what this was, it was like a family tree, a genealogy. He thought it was by the Nazis. I haven't seen that anywhere else, where you'd walk into a town and they knew who the Jews were. And it was written in a code, a kind of a German code, and it sounds hard, but it isn't really. You can see that that's from Morris's family, or Leopold's family. Each marriage had an entry, and it says 7 kinder on there, 7 children. And then it writes about the 7 children, a little bit what happened to them, where they went. So there was this one I just could not figure out. It said, as I translated it, registration by District Court, Frankfurt on Main, since 8/8/1945. I said, what does that mean? He says, that means they were killed in the Holocaust. Bong! What? So,
my mother had always told us we did not lose.
And my mother. And your grandparents.
Yeah, they always said that.
They all agreed that no one in their family was lost.
Yeah, right. And it's too bad she passed away in 2010, because I think she would have been really interested in it. Either that or she would have thought it was good. I think she would have. So I got to work. I looked immediately at Yad Vashem, which is the big site in Israel of Holocaust information. Dang, if he did not show right back up at David Baumann. I didn't know anything else about his family. David Baumann, but there was 2 records. One was from Germany and one was from. So then but I didn't know much about it. So then I ran to that great website, Jude's Monument. It's in a Netherlands website. This is a beautiful informative site. It's wonderful. And that's where I learned about Lothar, and I learned about Marta, and I learned about her parents, and I learned that he lived here. And I learned about Stolpersteines, and that's when I said to Marianne, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. We had to do this. We had to go to Amsterdam and lay Stolperstein for these family members. If we don't, who will? And should we include Marta's parents? Sure, why not? Let's do it. And so that's how I found it, and that's how I got there. Did I really believe we were going to come here and do this? No. And look at all my family members who have all come. So I'm really grateful for my family members that have come. I wish we had Marta's family, and I wish we had relatives from Germany or the Netherlands, but it's probably not going to happen. So these Stolpersteine, to me, signify the final resting place for this family. I'm thrilled to see them there, and we'll learn from the past and hope for better in the future. Okay, some of the two last things I have is I talked to some congregations and I asked them to send me short readings to include, and they were very eager to do so. The first is from Temple Beth Am, which is the synagogue that my husband and I belong to in Seattle, Washington, and she wrote about a memorial. That's what he said. And Mark will read my nephew.
The matzeva, marking of time and place. It is an ancient Jewish custom to erect a matzeva, which does not mean gravestone, tombstone, or marker. The literal transition of matzeva is monument. We erect a matzeva in memory and in honor of our beloved dead, a tradition that comes from Jacob, who placed a monument on the grave of his beloved Rachel. We have gathered to mark the history of this community and to make this new memory of coming together in their honor and as a testament to the survival of each new generation. Unveiling is a formal presentation and public presentation, the act of beginning a new phase. It also affords us a glimpse of mystery. To unveil this matzeva is to reveal and disclose the legacy of this lost people, to affirm our love and presence here today, and to experience the thinning of the veils between the worlds. Our purpose in having a matzeva is to recall what is sacred and eternal about life. Together, in being here today, we are building something new and everlasting, a matzeva of memory.
Thank you. And another short thing. My husband Dennis will read, and it is from Temple, Michigan, Israel, in New Haven, Connecticut. That's where Morris Baumann and all his family and all of my mother's family relatives, they all belong to Michigan, Israel. It's from Rabbi Brian Emmerman.
For the 6 million and all who died in the Shoah, let there be perfect rest for the souls of the 6 million who died as Jews in the flames of the Shoah. Let there be perfect rest for the countless millions who died because of race, religion, or nationality, political affiliation, or sexual orientation. Hold them close to you forever. Seal their souls for everlasting life in the shelter of your presence, for you are the eternal home. Together we say, Amen.
Amen. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And now I'd like to turn it over to Rabbi Tenbrink, who will be doing something.
You said it all. Having said it, I'm very happy in a way that those Stolpersteine are here now with your help, and that as a remembrance that the people lived here for the last stage in their life in Amsterdam, and before that Westerbork, Auschwitz, Sobibor. Just over a month ago I've been in Auschwitz and Sobibor with the yearly Auschwitz visit, as we call it. Went to Poland with the Dutch Auschwitz Committee and visited the camps there. The main thing in the camps there is that it's empty. There are no matzevot, there are no graveyards. Well, it's a large graveyard, but there are no monuments there. The monuments we should have erected for people that died at cemeteries. They didn't get a graveyard, they didn't get a monument, didn't get a matzeva. And now, in a way, they received their matzeva in honor of them. Their names are kept for people that walk in the street, people that live here, people can see that they actually existed, that they lived, and that they were not a number, or even not even a number, but were put away in the gas chambers and been cremated. What the Nazis wanted. The way of dedicating a monument on Matseva is to read the text on the Matseva, and then before that you unveil the Matseva. So I will read the names of the people that lived here, people that lived in Lekstraat, and I will say the Yeskor, the commemoration words and prayer, and say the Kaddish. And I think you have the text all, so you can join me in saying the Kaddish. So I will turn a little bit round to read the names. Start from right. Lothar Baumann. Hier woonde Lothar Baumann, geboren 1926. Geïnterneerd 10 juli 1942. Gedeporteerd 15 juli 1942. Uit Westerbork. Vermoord 30 september 1942, Auschwitz. Hier woonde Martha Baumann-Wijs, geboren 1901, geïnterneerd 17 november 1943, gedeporteerd 25 januari 1944 uit Westerbork, vermoord op 28 januari 1944 in Auschwitz. Hier woonde David Baumann, geboren 1892, geïnterneerd op 10 juli 1943, gedeporteerd 13 juli 1943 uit Westerbork, vermoord 18 juli 1943 in Sobibor. De mensen in de people that live in Lekstraat. Hier woonde Isabella Weiss-Blumenthal, geboren 1880, geïnterneerd 20 juni 1943. Gedeporteerd 8 juli 1943 uit Westerbork, vermoord 9 juli 1943, Sobibor. En hier woonde Adolf Weiss, geboren 1871, geïnterneerd op 21 augustus 1943, gedeporteerd 8 juli 1943 uit Westerbork, vermoord op 9 juli 1943, Sobibor. The word vermoord means murdered. They didn't die, they were murdered in those camps. And that's why it is good to have this word put on the Stolpersteine. That people really know, not only our generations, but also the coming generations, what really happened in those awful places. I will say the Yeskor and mentioning their names, and then we will together say the Kaddish. First the text.
Misschien doet je beter weer even daar gaan staan voor het geluid.
Ja, oké. El male rachamim shochen b'meromim hametzeh menucha nechona tachat kanfei השכינה במעלות קדושים קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים לנשמת David Baumann, Martha Weiss-Baumann, Lothar Baumann, Adolf Weiss, Isabella Blumenthal-Weiss, Shalechul leolamam, began Eden tehemenu chatam, Ana ba'ala rachamim, astireu etzeter knafecha leolamim. Utzoror bitzoror achayim et nishmatam, Adonai unachalatam, ve'yanuach b'shalom al mehishkavam v'nomar. Amen. text of the Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalmad yivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei l'chol beit Yisrael, v'agala u'v'zman karich v'imaru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'laomei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalei v'yitalal shemei l'kudisha bariku. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, le'amiran be'alma v'imaru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imaru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromach, u'ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol b'nei Adam v'imaru amen. And the words of the Kaddish are, they don't consist any words of death. But when you say Kaddish together, and you've mentioned the names of the people who passed away, because you say the Kaddish, you actually make them stay alive in your minds, in your memory. And by every time calling the names again and again, they didn't die in our memory. And that's our task, your task as family, as survivors, to keep mentioning their names as you came back to this place, to make sure that they are not really gone. Thank you. Wish you long life.
Thank you.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim Ushmor tzeitzei